producer. And this week, it's a busy week for us. We're traveling. We're all over the place. Doug is currently across the pond in England at an international Confronting Christian Nationalism symposium where people from around the globe are talking about the rising threat of Christian nationalism, not just in America, but around the world. It's a troubling phenomenon, and we're part of the conversation and talking about what we can do to confront it. So we'll be sharing content from that in the weeks to come, hopefully some interviews and some insight gained from other people that are dealing with this issue in their own countries and in America. So some good stuff happening. This is also a busy month for us. We're calling it the March on Christian Nationalism. We just released a podcast this month. Every Friday there's a new episode. You can find it wherever you get your podcasts. It's called Confronting Christian Nationalism. Just search for that name and you'll be sure to find it. And episode 3 just dropped a couple days ago. Really good stuff. I think you'll enjoy it. But even though we're traveling around this week, we wanted to give you some great content. And so we've got a conversation between Doug Pagitt and his friend Samir Selmanović. It's just a beautiful concept that Samir has, and I think something that the world really needs. And so we'll dive into this conversation, and I think you'll really enjoy it.
Hey, Samir, really good to have you on the podcast today. Super excited to talk about this turn community, and as important as it is to the individuals that are involved and to this movement, frankly, that a lot of people find themselves a part of. So glad to have you here. Samir, you've been a dear friend of mine for a long time. You're one of those people that I would say there is no recognizable life that I lead today that doesn't exist without your fingerprints on it. So thank you for being part of all this, and super glad you live in New York. You're in one of those fancy Harlem apartments. So tell us, give us a little background on all the things you've done, what's brought you to this point, and what you've been up to, and then we'll talk about the turn community.
Yeah, it has been a quite long time since we met, Doug, and you kind of took me under your wing. I was just like this bewildered pastor there, first in New York, then in California, and then I came to these emergent meetings, and I shared an idea with you in a parking lot, and you say, "Hey, can you write a chapter for a book? That would be nice." And I like, yeah, oh my gosh, this is so great when somebody sees something in you, a potential of what you can be, what you already are and or are becoming, and names it as a witness. That's the magical moment in our transformation. Like when our emerging self is seen by somebody and not judged, but invited, that's the hocus pocus, right? That's the identity moment when it changes. It never happens alone. It happens at the view of other person. And so you were that person for me so many times. And I'm now here in New York. Has been for 10 years. After the career in ministry, that's familiar maybe to a lot of our listeners and to you, obviously to you. And then it has been a journey of migrating from one place to another, right? It was just like adjusting our eyesight,
nice,
getting into the new space. It was frightening leaving our beaten paths that we have mastered through the seminary and ministry, and crying on a floor in the basement of the church before the board meeting, or after the board meeting to, from the stress. And then coming to realize that this joy of common good is basically the word for the kingdom of God in our tradition, right? The joy of common good. Like, it's so beautiful when we came to this open space where we can fully engage and feel and think in a public place and see our God everywhere in everything.
Yeah.
I remember those days. That's what stands out for me.
So, I mean, this is a little embarrassing now because I can't remember the name of your book. Sorry.
It's called "It's Really All About God."
It's really all about God. Thank you.
He gave it a new name today. It's not about God at all.
It's okay. So you have a book that you wrote that was given a title by a publisher, Josie Bass, a very reputable publisher. and
Yeah.
like a lot of authors, not always, into their
Yeah.
the titles like they are the content. But that book was kind of seminal for a lot of people. It was for me, reading it, hearing you describe this thing, that there's an unbounded God narrative that invites all of us into the things that God loves, and we should be thinking about that. Like your Christian tradition brought you to that realization, right? That there's
Yeah.
a hope and dream of God that humanity should try to match. And we've done, like, as we've organized our religious lives as humanity, and those of us who've done this in our own small little places, it really gets complicated. And one of the things I'm so excited about this Turn community effort and this project that you're doing, and this program that people can sign up for, I want to be clear, we want people to know there's a cohort they can sign up for. There's a thing launching that they can be in, because a lot of people in our world are like, I know what I don't want. I've seen it. I've tasted it. There's something I do want, and I don't know where to get it. I don't know how to find it. And this is one of those places. And one of the essentials to this is this notion you've had for a long time. It's not supposed to be hard like this. Life and humanity has its struggles, but we've added on a whole set of them that maybe don't need to be there. Do I have some of that right? And talk about that for a bit.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, a lot of religion, religion is supposed to tell you how to live, right? So answer all the questions. But you're alive when you don't know. You are alive when you are lost. When not just lost, you need to live a life that is greater than what you can control, right? And if you live a life that you can control, it's a very small one, and you're not
Nice.
alive, right? So to live outside of the boundaries where you lose control, that's where it's a honest relationship with reality, when you are in relationship to the unknown, right?
Nice.
And we were always told that we know the things, and then but there's also a goodness out there, right? But that's not enough. It's not enough. It is that we depend on the out there to witness to us,
Hmm.
right? So evangelism is always a two-way street. Actually, we evangelize because we depend on the wisdom and goodness and revelation from people outside of our boundaries.
Hmm.
That has been throughout the Bible. It was with Jesus even. He was in need all the time. He received revelation from the woman who told him, look, you young man, you're full of it, right? You are saying that dogs, that you have come, but dogs also can eat the crumbs out
Yes.
from the floor, right? Syrophoenician woman. And he's like, oh my gosh, how could I say the stuff I said? She's right. This old lady is teaching me now something, right?
Hmm.
So it's a concept that goes from daily life through to the world religions. We need each other to survive
Hmm.
and to thrive, right? Others are not there to serve our story, in other words.
Nice. So talk about this shared path, this metaphor of seeing the migration story of humanity, people moving from place to place, living in new spaces and places, finding new ways to live, something you've experienced in your own move from Croatia to the United States, something we've bared witness to of millions of people around the world. And it's actually a truism for all of humanity, because we're all moving into some kind of new way of life and new way of being, right? There's always, whether that's age
Right.
that we've never lived in before, or a circumstance, or a city, or a set of relationships, like we're always moving into new territories. That's such a powerful story, or such a powerful metaphor and new story for people, and such a great way to think about what you're doing with the Turn community. Can you say a bit about that? The idea that the migrant trail, the migrant journey, is actually the desirable way to live and to be?
Yes. I mean, we as humans, we move from the caves to the moon, in mere, 10,000 years. We are beings on the move, right? No other species would say, hey, that's the boundary. Behind that line is the unknown. You know, there's dangers and joys and whatever. Don't go there. Nobody goes there, right? Humans, let's say, oh, I'm going to go there, right? I'm going to
Totally.
go there. Not that fruit. I'm going to take that fruit, right? That fruit was meant to be eaten, right? in
Are you, are
Genesis.
you, are you doing a genocide? Okay. Hey, we've never talked about
Yeah,
this. This is
that's
fresh
what
stuff.
rabbis told me. That was meant to be done, right?
That
Because
fruit was
we
meant to
do
be
want
eaten.
to know, we do
Uh,
want to immigrate. And what happens
love
when
it.
we step out of the Garden of Eden, the big surprise is that outside of the garden, inside of the garden is God, but outside of the garden is God,
Nice.
right? So this migration is actually conspiracy that started from the beginning to make us, to allow us to be fully alive, to learn good from evil, to grow. And we humans are hooked on that, right?
Hmm.
And we are hooked when something is unknown, it scares us. Yeah, we should be afraid, to cross the unknown street. That's good. But also is full of joy and full of promise. Every
Hmm.
beautiful thing we have is starts with the unknown. You go for a date and you're awkward. One
Hmm.
foot in the known, one in the unknown, but you have to be present, you have to sort it out, and great things happen. Love happens, right? So not knowing is just not just a spice of life, it's protein of life. It's like holds us completely. It's
I
a
hope people
necessity,
are. I,
necessity.
I hope people are realizing what's about to happen to them when they listen to you talk, because it happens to me all the time. But people are listening to this and they're like wanting to pause it because they're like, oh, hang on a minute. Did he just say the unknown is not the spice of life, but the unknown is the protein of life, the thing that actually gives you sustenance and builds muscle and is necessary? Like that little turn of a phrase, it's so classic Samir and it's so on the button. And frankly, that's one of the reasons I think people should be in this project with you, because you have a perspective on the world that swirls in this known way, and so many ways that you have to share that with people, right? Like so many ways for people to find the
Mhm.
the realization of the thing that they know. You're not just a creative thinker and a contrarian thinker and all that. You are both of those things, but you're also this super generous, like the thing you're living in. That's the thing to pay attention to. That's on the that's the thing that's on the button. Um, why are you like that? How did you get like this? Do you have any thoughts? Do you have any reflections? Have you always been that way, or is that
That's a
something
good
that
question.
you've
Yeah.
seen coming?
What happened to me? Right? Right. One of the we in a term community we discussed these five powers, and we gave it the word powers because everything is so soft and kind and understanding and sophisticated. So we needed a strong word, so we call them powers. But those are actually
Nice.
irreducibly human skills, right? And first one is the skill of the unknown, right? That you, if you master, it'll serve you everywhere. And AI, artificial intelligence, cannot imitate it or help you with it, right? It confuses AI.
Nice.
uh, and so that first one is the unknown. But one of them, the third one, is the crazy. And
Hmm.
we debated a lot whether the word the crazy or the calling should be, and the crazy one
Ah,
for the
love it.
because there's a specific way in which each one of us needs to admit to our own craziness,
Yeah.
that we are see things and hear things that other people don't,
Yes.
that we are engaged in a life in a unique way that to others is strange, right?
Yeah.
And we need to stand for these things every once in a while in a big way. And I remember when I became a Christian, my former girlfriend was invited by my parents to convince me to recant, kind of a thing. And she whispered to me on the side, she says, sometimes you need to stand for something against the whole world, you know
Nice line. Sometimes you just stand for something even against the whole world. It's a
Right,
great phrase.
right. So there is this special something about us that we carry, sometimes see as a wound, sometimes see as something we need to straighten up or an obstacle, but very often is something to actually double down on, right? The crazy, you double down on it in service of the world.
Yeah.
And I feel like everybody has that contribution to make, and they cannot make that contribution and see that alone. Nothing that matters happens alone. It needs a witness. Gloria Steinem said every transformation needs a witness.
That's great.
And so whether you got to find it somewhere,
See, and this is the thing I think is so powerful about this is you and I both come from the religious traditions. We worked in them. Like we're industry people, right? Like there's no way to no way to
Right,
look
right,
at our
right.
pedigrees and not be like, you guys have been in the religion business. And in a lot of ways, you're still in the religion business, right? But we also acknowledge that there's some features of religion that we don't care for so much, like that religion exists to provide answers and religion exists to keep things reasonable. And you're suggesting there's a better, there's an other way at some point that some people reach in their spirituality, where what they need to actually do is step across the line into the unknown, not into the answers. You're not just like, boy, I got a lot of questions. I wish I found somebody to give me honest answers. It's
Hmm,
a
hmm.
project different than that, which is what I really want to do is step into the places where I don't even know the questions yet. I want my life to come alive in a way that I don't even know what I'm supposed to be asking. So I'm not looking for answers. I'm looking for a, a whole other way, maybe even different questions. And then you want it to be reckless or crazy or kind of outside the norms. And look, that's not for everybody, but there's a lot of people who've realized I've done the answer thing. I've done the question thing. I've
Mm,
done the
yeah.
how do I get the most out of this? How could I hack my life to the most efficient way possible? Because efficiency is the thing I want to be longing for. And then we're
Mhm.
like, no, hang on. There's something else. There's something wild out there. There's some, that
Yeah.
wilderness thing that that a lot of the religions, especially Christianity and Judaism, call you
I mean,
to is to enter into the wild.
right now, Doug, you can see once you are fully on in a religious world and you exit it, you see that the same world is out there, the same thing going on,
Hmm. Nice.
right? Corporate world is its own religion. It has its own rituals, regalia, altars, language, everything. Everything is just like
Yeah.
symbols, everything, right? But right now, this self-development piece, we have learned so much from neuroscience, and personal growth is very trending, and it's coming out, and it's a lot of information,
Hmm.
a lot of great information, and a lot of great advice.
Nice.
But the problem is that all the good advice that you need, you can only absorb about 5% of it, right? So you need to live a life in which you disregard good advice because there is too much of it. You're underwater, right?
Yeah, that's right.
So
Yep.
so so that whole thing is lost because we are in a tsunami of these things. So we need to change perspective of how we experience life. That's it.
Yeah.
That's our hope right now, is how you experience and what perspective on life you have. And that's what people want from leaders. I need a better perspective, right?
That's so good.
That better
So
perspective, right? And those who or scuba diving system to be under the water or be on a hill, something like that. And once you yeah, so I don't know where I was going with that,
Well, I feel
but
like I interrupted you on this immigration narrative too, that we're migrating into this new place of the unknown, and there's these pathways that people who move to other places, other languages, other cultures, that they have to take on some skills. They have to develop some capacities. And I think that's such a powerful metaphor. I don't know if you're doing a lot of that in the
yeah,
turn community, but that really seems like it's essential to this project, right? Is to see us, we're
right,
all on a journey and trying to walk
yeah,
each other home at night.
yeah. Now remember what I was going to say is, when you step this into this unknown, yeah, you have to allow yourself to put your flag down if you're crazy, see who sees it, who wants it, they'll come. Those who don't, they don't need to. The thing is that a lot of people do not want to be crazy,
Yeah.
and so in this mass they become lonely because they don't know who you are. People know who you are. They need to know your twist, your riddle, like
Wow.
that way they know who you are, so they can relate to you. You cannot be found if you're not crazy, right? By crazy, I mean simply yourself. That's
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Trust your life's
You're not
wisdom
talking
and
about mental
experience and
illness,
move
right? Yeah.
on, and
Yeah.
make mistakes in public. And I would say relax in this unknown. It's not a tense place. Unknown is full of friendship. It is reaching out to you. People are good. They are looking for allies. you will find surprises on how beautiful and wonderful things are. When you're leaving the known, you are grieving something that is serving you because you don't know the beauty that that you're going to encounter and strength that you will find. And
Nice.
it's just such a great experience to be an immigrant to this new place. Is different than being a hero, right? We live in a society in which we are all asked to be on a hero's journey. You're realizing something, right? That you're special, right? Now you're going out to special. You find your Yoda, right? You find your special weapon, and you need victims and villains, and you're fighting, and you are a hero. Now we ended up with the whole society where everybody needs to be a hero, right? And but we are here to serve each other's stories as well, and that's exciting.
Hmm.
Why wouldn't it be exciting for me to be part of your story? And say, how does that work? Because hero's journey that has been perpetrated a lot, and it's helpful in many ways. You cannot put it apart completely, right? uh, but it's in our sports, it's in our
Yeah.
international politics, in everywhere. It's just there's this constant strife, as though story cannot exist if we don't fight,
Yeah.
right?
So good. Yeah. If there's not villains and
So,
victims and heroes
so
and all
where
this.
is the tension of an immigrant story? Tension is in I realized the tension of the immigrant story when I talked to my daughter. She was in a high school. She wouldn't listen to anything. She has monosyllabic answers, like totally couldn't connect. And I realized I'm asking her only questions I have answers for. Basically, I'm having leading questions to teach her something, right? And then I told her, look, I do not know how to be a parent. You do not know how to be adult. How about we help each other and go to a place where neither you nor I have been before?
All right, you
And
just
this
you come like a freight train. We're going to pause there for a second if we can. This idea that
anyway,
you're saying to your teenage daughter, you come to realization, I only ask you questions that I have answers for. That is a realization. A lot of people do that not just with their children, they just do that in their life, right? They only
oh yeah,
entertain the questions
yeah,
that they have answers for. And then you said what to her? Let's do that differently. And how did you phrase it?
yeah. How about you help me be a parent and I help you learn to be adult? This is new for me. It's new for you. We are going into the territory that is difficult for us, right? It's because
Yep.
it's new. Let's help each other. Let's
Nice.
be together, discover, learn the language. Let's get up early, like immigrants, work hard, sing songs, eat good food. There is a way as immigrants that we go somewhere together, because even in politics, it's not about real immigrants, because people who are Americans are also misplaced.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter if you came here a year ago or your
Yes.
ancestors 100 years ago. You feel misplaced. And so we are all need to have compassion for each other about where we are finding ourselves,
Yeah. Yeah.
and work to learn the language, and work to claim the promise of that place,
Hmm.
right? With self-compassion and compassion for each other. That gives a tension of a story that doesn't need victims and villains.
That's great. And I guess it's the realization in that story. We say, look, we're all going to act heroically. Sure. We're all going to act villainously. Yep. We're going to hurt one another with our actions. That's going to happen.
Yeah.
We can name villains and victims, but that's not the point of the story. The point of the
Right.
story is, can we travel together? Can we move together, knowing that people are going to behave in ways that people feel are heroic and not, and have to overcome the harm that's caused by behavior of one another. Yeah, that's being a human being. But that's not the end of the project, right? The end of the project isn't to figure out, take the sticky note out and stick it on someone and say, you're the villain, you're the hero, and we all
Right.
have our roles to play in the world. Because the curious thing, Samir, that I've realized, at least in American context, I spent much more time talking about it here. I don't know every other society if they're this way. But in the hero, villain, victim story, people tend to find a way to pitch themselves as the hero almost no matter what. And they'll pitch the people on their team, on their side, people who agree with them, as the heroes. and they'll find a way to make a villain out of the out of others if they're in opposition to them repeatedly, right? So
You
it's not
have
even
to
a
have them for story to work, you know.
yep.
You have to have these victims and villains for story to work. And then you have a mass of people who are passive, right?
Hmm.
Who are just watching you fighting the dragon, you know. They're neither villains nor victim, they're just passive. And that's how you have a passive
Nice.
electorate, you know.
Yeah.
You have passive communities that are saying, well, these people who are in power are duking it out, or we are kind of a standbys on the story, right?
Nice.
Like we are just there to welcome the hero home, to give hero a hard time, like, and all
Yeah.
of that, right?
Nice.
uh it's just became this story. It's 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 not exciting anymore.
Hmm.
You know, the strength of that story was that it was exciting. If you would come with any other story, it would be like, there's no fight, you know, like there's
Yeah.
no tension in the story, there's no. But right now, I'm like, and I was going to share with you this, Doug. I was knowing this, and I was in Croatia recently. Went to an island, and there's this guide who takes you to the island and goes through all, you know, world history through that island in Mediterranean. I mean, everybody was there, like Germans, Italians, Romans, Egyptians.
Wow.
You know, everybody, right? And you know what is his line? Oh my gosh, I love it. He said, "Oh, you're from America, yeah," and he says, "Yeah, you have a lot of opinions, you know, in your culture." And I said, "Yeah." He says, "You know, opinions are like assholes. Everybody has one. You know, we are drowning in opinions,
Yeah.
right?
Nice.
Tell me your value. Tell me what matters to you. Tell me what you want to do, right?"
Nice.
And I realized, oh my gosh, yes, the fire hose of stuff coming at me is
Yeah.
my opinions. The
Mm-hmm.
way I get other people tired when they're with me is dishing out answers and giving my opinions, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah. Welcome to
sometimes you
our
catch
podcast.
yourself,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know, yeah, like, yeah.
Uh,
So you are around the table and I'm like talking and I catch myself, why am I talking? Why I need to give an answer to everything, and why I need to, like, if we can just calm down and talk about our values and talk about what matters to us and how to go
yeah.
about it, I think I think a lot of things will clear up.
Yeah. I feel like one of the reasons we don't tend to do that so much is because there's great fear that our values are. You had this great phrase earlier that I wrote down. I wanted you to come back to it. You said, "Tell me what your riddle is." Right? That question.
Mhm.
I've realized as an adult now, and talking to adults about our adult things, a lot of us think we're crazy. Like deep down, we're like, I don't think I got it all together. I'm not sure I'm really doing this right. There's things I think and believe and motivations I have and drives and decisions that I've made. They don't make any sense. So opinions are like this little wall that you can live behind and peek over at times, right? But
Mhm.
when you start saying like, well, tell me what motivates you, tell me what impassions you, tell me what your riddle is, people are like, oh, you don't want to get inside this, right? Like there's a
Mhm.
lot going
But
on
I
in there.
do. But I do. I don't
Well,
want to waste time with other things.
well,
I want
and
to
that's
know how you organize your unknown. That's what I want to know. Everything that you don't know about the
unbelievable.
world, about yourself, how do you, around which riddle your heart is organized? Okay.
You're just
And
full of these things. Hang on. I was just finishing writing down how you organize your unknown, and then you said how does your riddle? What was that?
around which riddle your heart is organized.
Around which riddle is your heart organized? Come on, folks, I'm telling you, this is why you got to sign up for this turn community. Be in this thing because Samir leads it. He's the primary sort of guide and partner with people, and it's in cohorts. And we'll talk about that in a second because we do have to get to that. I realize too, but this is why you want to be in this because there's other people talking about other things in ways that are really quite motivating. Okay, so pardon the interruption. You were saying I want to know how does your heart or what riddle does your heart organize around? What was okay?
Yeah, yeah. There's many ways to say it. Once you start respecting that place you cannot control, you know, in yourself and outside, right? And actually, faith, and in good faith, and in knowing of the friendship of all creation, you take a risk in the world to be, the question is, what are you going to hazard yourself for in the world? What are you risk yourself for the world? That's the biggest question,
Hmm.
because you need to risk yourself for something, right?
Hmm.
uh, 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 you are, and it's always a risk, precisely because you're crazy, and precisely because the world is uncontrollable.
Yeah.
uh, and yeah, so what I really like about our cohorts is that people come out, very first our very first session, I ask people to identify their 12 favorite problems they cannot solve.
It's a great line.
Right. It's unbelievable. People just start uh
Like it's
people
right there
start,
for people. When you say start with one of your 12 problems that you can't solve, people are like, I'm ready. I got one. Like they're
right,
just ready
right.
for it, aren't they?
But the riddles
Amazing.
that you love, and they can be relational, it
Yes.
can be, family, it can be abstract philosophical, it can be about your motorcycle, it can be about, a philosopher, um, uh, whatever that is, because this is what we are guided for. The goals are sort of overrated, uh, because
Yeah.
goals are you're constantly pushing your outcome and everything you're doing towards that goal. But if you come with certain intention and you have a riddle, then you're open, right? Then you can pivot every day. You're much better off coming from something than going to something, because going to something, you have decided the end of the journey. It's just like, really, like, it's
Hmm.
like asking a high schoolers to give me the meaning of life and your purpose and what are you going to do
Yeah.
next 30 years so we'll accept you in this college.
Yeah. What do you want to do with your life? Yeah.
What do you want to do? I want to get laid. That's what I want to do before September, right?
Yeah.
Like, and they're asking people, and I see it in kids, just so how would I say, so oppressed
Yeah.
by this
Tormented by it.
push
Yeah.
for purpose and meaning and all of that. I think the answer, one of the skills, besides the unknown and the crazy, is called the disappearance, right? This disappearance, it means you're gonna die, right? And
Yeah.
that is the basically like a core of every answer to every important question,
Hmm.
right? And uh and so so my mind is going to another another
Another.
skill, but anyway, what were we talking about?
Okay. Well, let me pause on that one. You said, look, the great disappearance is a part of this, right? There's a series of skills that you're going to walk people through that are fresh and are important and are good. Let me pause you for a minute and ask you to reflect on something. I I don't know when we met. Were we like in our 30s? Does that sound right? 20,
Oh,
20 years ago,
no, it
25
was
years
earlier
ago?
than that.
In our 20s?
We met late 90s.
Okay. So,
We were in
wow.
a Seattle in some conference with Seattle University, and that's where I met Brian and you.
Okay. Yeah. So 25 years ago or something. Okay. So we're late 20s, early 30s. If 31-year-old Samir somehow, in Back to the Future like fashion,
Uh-huh.
was listening to this conversation and hearing the things you're saying, how would these things have landed on you at that time?
Oh my gosh, that's a very,
And I
very
guess why I'm
sobering.
asking, and you don't listen to me, I'll say this to the people. The reason I'm asking this is I wonder how much of what you're saying now really connects for people at a certain stage of life. And that stage could be driven by experience, could be driven by culture, could be driven by age, whatever. But when you were 31 and you heard all of this, or somehow all the things you've seen that are part of the turn community, what would you have thought of it? How would you have engaged with it? Would you have felt, I don't know, what would have gone on?
Yeah, I mean, I would say, look, old man, you don't know what you're talking about. You're old, and that clouds your judgment. I have so many important things to do right now. Like, I don't think about death. Why would I think about death? You know, I am thinking about life. I'm thinking about achieving right now. I
Yeah.
am having high expectations, and I want to fulfill my destiny,
Right.
and I want to do all of that. And I would kind of take it. I don't know if I have time for the downer, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
That's how it would feel a little bit, or yeah, something like that. I remember at that age we would listen to people, but sometimes you don't know their age, and you are kind of reading these philosophers, and then you don't know they wrote this when they were 70 years old.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And it sounds fresh because you kind of imagine them differently, right? But at that time, I'm always dreaming to have a class. It's called, it'll be Death for the Young.
Nice.
uh, uh, you know,
I
so.
think what I would have done with this, and I feel like I did hear people saying things that were as intriguing as all
Mhm.
this was. I think I would have said, I think I would have felt, I don't know what they're talking about. I can't do that right now. I literally have to, I start a church or keep a job, or I just got married, or I have kids. Like I got stuff to do, and I can't be like walking into the unknown like an artist and a poet and so on. But I would have like said, I hope I get to a point in life where this doesn't feel so foreign right now. It doesn't feel like such a hard left turn. Like I'm going
Mm,
down a road. I hope I get to a point where this is going to feel like a natural bend in the road, right? Not a slam on the brakes and turn
right.
to another direction. That this turn is
Yeah.
what I'm longing for and what I'm waiting for. How much do you think this is kind of developmental, or a lot of people have done good developmental work, right? Falling upward, and
Yes. Yes.
the third mountain stuff, and all
Absolutely.
this stuff about like age and development, and which again is not just older. Some old people never do this, and some young people do it from the start. So it's not about age, but it is about I don't know, a
Right. Yeah. I feel like these kind of things, these human skills that won't be able, be done for you by chatbot and, and all of that stuff, they are the most direct way to succeed in what really matters to you.
hmm,
They're not roundabout way. They're not,
nice,
it's a counterintuitive. They're not electives. Uh, they are almost like when you go to high school and they'll give you algebra 3 and algebra 4, but they never give you budgeting at home, right? They never give you social skills and emotional intelligence, right? And they say, well, I don't have time, I got to do algebra, I got to do like, no, algebra, very unlikely you're going to need it, right? uh, but social skills, yeah, you will need that. We will go over that, right? Emotional
nice,
intelligence, yeah, we will do that. And so I feel these powers and skills are, the
nice.
beauty of them, that they are easy, right? Once you accept them,
Hmm,
they're natural. They are given to us. They are not something that we need to force ourselves into. These other things are very forceful. Um, I often think of, like, people are distracted about the wisdom they have and what they know and what's given
nice.
to them all the time, right? They talk about the known, uh, un, uh, unknown, but nobody talks about the fourth thing, which is unknown knowns.
Huh.
Stuff that you do not do know, but you don't know that you know,
Yeah, nice, nice. Yeah.
right?
Yeah, it's not categorized as a knowing. It's categorized as something else that's rolling around
Yeah,
in your
yeah.
heart,
You have
spirit,
three
mind.
always. Nobody goes to
Yeah,
this like,
nice.
hey, life gave you wisdom more than this next book in the in the glass window of, we still have that in Barnes and Nobles,
Yeah,
will ever give you, right? Because life experience is not a text. It's a 3D. It's experiential. It is transcendental. It's mystical. And if you want the truth, you need to go beyond reasoning, beyond rational, right? You
nice.
need to go and draw from your life experience. And so, what I would say to a 30-year-old, um, don't be distracted. Like, we do this cohort, the lab, we call it, because we don't have time,
Nice.
right? It's because we don't have time and our attention is precious. That's why we do the lab. We don't
All
do
right.
lab because we don't know what to do. So this is an elective.
So let's talk about this for details for people. This thing we're talking about is not only an idea, an embodiment that you're describing, but it's actually a project, a lab, a cohort, a program that people can sign up for. They can go to turncommunity.org, and they'll see some of what's on the screen here. If they're listening just to the podcast, it's turncommunity.org. It's in the, we'll put it in the show notes and all that stuff. So you can click on a link in case, you can't remember to type turncommunity.org, as well. I'll say it about a dozen times for people. And it's a 5-week cohort experience and event. Can you talk a bit about what it is if someone's intrigued by these ideas and are like, yeah, this is what I've been talking about. Like, I don't just want self-help. I don't just want, somebody else's program for, how to make the most of your life. But this thing you're describing, that's the journey that I want to go on. What will they experience and all that? And like, what it starts on April 6th, this new cohort and all the rest of it. How many people? What are they going to experience? Like do the really important, interesting, and kind of boring stuff. What is this thing?
Yeah. I mean, we are committed to ease, joy, and being real, right? So we don't have time for other things. We don't want things that are not easy. And we don't want to do things that are not feeding us. They're not fun. We don't want a heavy transformation. You got to do this. You got to, like none of that. Obviously, you will need to do some work, but it happens to you, right? So first, when you arrive, there is no big homeworks, big things to do. It's just a natural progression of asking yourself some questions and encountering conversation about spirituality in plain English. We don't even use word spirituality, right?
Yeah.
God is welcome, but it's not required. And it's fine. It's just one part. There's diverse group of people. So you will meet people who are from a different space.
And this is online. When you say when they show up, this is going to be showing up in an online format somewhere with a camera.
One of the values we have is more life learning, less online learning. So we do whatever we can to do that, to help people actually pay attention to what's happening around them during the week. But there is one synchronized time per week that is an hour.
Right? And what time and date and stuff is all that? Like, when does that happen?
So it's on Sundays. This time around will be at 1 p.m. Eastern time. Obviously, there'll be recordings, and then we have a platform in which everything is discussed, and it's just a powerful platform that allows us, that is most alive. We tried many of them, but this one kind of works well. And then people say, why Sunday? And the reason people say they want a Sunday is because if you put it in the end of the work day, right, it's kind of like a part of work, but this is a me time. This is not something like, oh, I got to self-develop,
Yeah.
No,
right.
I don't need to self-develop. I just need to show up, right?
So at 1 p.m. Eastern time on Sundays, there's a time when people are invited to be there, and there's some sharing and some teaching. How much time in the rest of the week do people tend to put into this project when they're in one of these cohorts for this period of time?
Yeah, if you go to the turncommunity.org, you will see there it's all broken by minutes.
Okay.
So we are very honest about these things and want to make sure.
And what is it? Is it 40 minutes a week? Is it 1,000 minutes a week?
I would say, if you want to sort of get by, it's an extra hour. If you want to do it to really get the most out of it, it would be 2 hours
a week.
Yeah, besides that Sunday thing.
Yeah, great. Okay, so if people are like, all right, so how much? Partly, Samir, the reason I'm thinking about this is you can see over my shoulder I have a guitar hanging there, and you know that a year ago, 14 months ago, I started playing guitar, and I do lessons.
So
I do
proud of
things
you,
online.
man.
Thank you. Thank you. I have a stack of books right down there. Books. I have an iPad over there and a little binder. It's full. Like the number of people that say I'll help you play guitar is significant. There's a lot of people. I've probably have 7 or 9 different subscriptions over the last year of different programs and different things and all of it. And some people's attitude to teaching guitar is, we're going to make sure this is really fast and efficient. This isn't going to take a lot of time. When I run into that attitude and people in guitar, I'm like, you're not my person. I want somebody that's like, look, you're going to do this thing 3 hours a day. And if you don't do it 3 hours a day, it's not going to work. Because that's what I realize is true. Like, it isn't going to work for me. I like that intensity. So I like it. And obviously most people are like, no, could I do this in 15 minutes a day? Because truly, if you do 15 minutes a day, it does work, right? But there's just different people, different levels of commitment that people want. Some people are very, very short on time. Some people are like, no, this is serious for me. Like, I'm in. Like, I want something that's going to be multiple hours a week. This program allows someone to ride that range, right? They allow them to move from minutes to hours, depending on what they're up to, what their riddle is, and what it is that they're doing.
What I like about it is that people can use other things that they need. People need a devotional. People need to be with other people. People need to all kinds of things you need to do in order to be alive, right, and well. So this can cover some of that, and hope is that for every time we ask, it will release more time than we ask, right? Because if you don't do that, you have to earn your right to be in people's lives. You can't just say, hey, you're doing too much, let's add simplicity to your life.
Yeah, got it.
That's not how it works, right?
That's
the way
right.
it works is that you are constantly releasing people's energy from stuff that they don't want to spend energy on, like that they need to let go, that they can count things differently, see things differently, so so that every moment they invest into something like this is actually returning to them in other moments and more moments, right?
Nice.
I think that's important. Otherwise people don't do it, and they
totally.
should do it. You have to earn that right.
That's right. You haven't earned the right. And so this is not something driven by like you have an agenda. You're along the path with people to go with them. I was going to say journey with them, but that just feels so like early 2000s kind of narrow. But you're there to go with people along their pathway and wherever they're moving.
Right.
How much does this cost? If someone's like, how much does it cost for me to be in a cohort?
Right. To be in a cohort is a $297.
$297 US.
Right.
Yeah, not Canadian. $297.
Right. We talked about this, and you were encouraging me.
How many weeks? How many weeks for $297?
That's 5 weeks, and then there's one onboarding week and one celebration week. So that's 7, but it's 5 weeks of content. Yeah,
5 weeks of content, 7 weeks of experience for $297. Incredible value, I'll say. I mean, I'm not trying to be the sham wow guy here, but that's a really great deal. And I think it's wonderful that people pay for this. So you're going to be in a cohort with other people who've also said, I want to commit to this. And I think it's worth $300 for me to be in this project with these people. And we're in it together. And hopefully people will keep going, right? Because the point, not a lot of transformation can happen in only 7 weeks on anything, right? I mean, maybe a diet, if you're on a really aggressive diet, you could see great change in 7 weeks, but that can be pretty temporary. But other than that, you don't see a lot of change in the emotional and life skill set in 7 weeks. But the first 7 weeks can also be so incredibly enlivening for people, right? Like they're among the most valuable. Anyone who's gone through anything that's project or program or something that's been about change, they realize, those opening weeks were so formative and so important.
Yeah, I mean, we when the cohort is finished, then there's all kinds of options, but options are to go and see people in your life differently and share what you have learned and create a different space for yourself, that's great.
Mhm.
But we will also continue, or the fraction of a cost, monthly, and keep on going. And then people who are alumni, they help other people. Like they are
Nice.
there to welcome them. They're well to talk. We have different teachers. Last time, for the last cohort, we had Jackie Lewis, and we also had Frank Schaefer. And they're both like uh, crazy in their own way, right?
Yeah.
Uh, and this time we want to have more of a cohort members help each other, right?
Great. Great.
And tell people that this is not sort of any profit kind of in a front there, having a pipe. It's much more about there's nobody gonna help you in life unless you help each other. Like you got to get that kind of a
Wow.
thing,
Great.
through, and you need to kind of learn to live like that. So you are not just following some sort of a service, but you are actually, the service is in tricking you into being helpful to other people,
Nice.
right? Because that's counterintuitive, but it's the direct way to being helped.
Is there any need for people to think they have to travel somewhere? They have to meet in person? Is there any of that people need to think about and be factoring in?
No, that's not necessary. We hope to see each other afterwards, and there will be, as the time goes on. This is our fourth cohort, so this is sort of still a beginning, still experimental.
Mhm.
We're kind of ending the experimental phase here, but there will be in-person meetings in the future. Yes.
What about inviting other people in their life, in someone's life, to do it with them? Do people do that? Do you suggest they do that? Do you not have an opinion? Do you suggest they don't do it? Say I've got a
Yes.
friend or
Yeah.
a partner or a
Definitely.
spouse or a child or something. We should do this together.
Yes. Yeah, I'm thinking what would be the downside of that? Like, what would be something that makes you, yeah, if you're willing to be, honest and present in that person's, if you can kind of let go of being of any defensive territory you might have, or know how you're gonna show up, that's
Yeah.
great. Yeah, and people do bring their people from work or friends. Alumni invite people.
How many people are in a cohort?
Well, we don't know. We just opened it right now, so we are.
What's it designed for? Is it 5 people? Is it 50 people? Is it 500
Well,
people?
yeah, it's between 25 and 100 people.
Okay.
But if with every number we hit, we need to hire somebody for
Right.
to maintain the quality of the engagement and care in the group.
Yeah, it gets more complicated. So, but I think it's helpful for people to know that you're in this. It's a project built around a cohort model where you're in with some people. Some of it's live on screen, some of it's interactions and writing, some of it's following up with other people. There's a collective of people in this thing together. Like that's super helpful. And
Yeah, and we invite people who have their own expertise to come and create something. Like once the cohort is done, we're going to launch these. We call them 10-day trips. It's not mushrooms, but better.
does it involve the woods? Is this one of
because we were
those things in the woods?
thinking, you said the word journey sounds so what 2000s, like
Early 2000s. Yeah.
early 2000s. Yeah, we had journey together, so we were thinking like, yeah, quest, blah blah, all kind of things, just not to say challenge.
Yeah.
But which is the word today. So we came up with this word trip, which is a kind of like a road trip.
Love it.
You take a road trip, you learn something, you taste something, and these trips are designed to take you from white belt to yellow belt with exposure to the black belt of something, right?
Nice.
That you don't
Nice.
know, right? So there will be like different topics.
Well, I like trip a lot because it even invokes that kind of 1960s pop culture, such a trip, man, such a trip. Like you're going on a trip, right? You're going on a
exactly.
You're going on a thing.
Yes.
You're going to travel, but you're also going on a thing.
Yeah, it's a trip. Yeah, I like that.
It's a
Yeah.
trip. Well, this is great, Samir. Anything else people need to know? I've put the website up here for people watching the video. It's turncommunity.org. It's all simple too. Look, folks. I mean, just go there and it's, you click on a couple things and you sign up and it's $300 and you're off and running. Anything else people need to know about it other than that they won't get if they go to turncommunity.org?
No, everything is there. Everything is streamlined. One thing that people can do, they can go to the turncommunity.org/navigator, right? That's an experience of going through a set of questions that will take you to that growing edge really quickly. Like it asks you questions that are like, that really quickly get you into that conversation with your riddle, right? And then you get some feedback on that and you learn something, and that helps you sort of taste it a little bit and prepare for the cohort experience. But it's not required, but so it's the same website /navigator.
Yeah, it's a little sampler. Yeah, you get a little taste of it. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Great. Well, thank you, buddy. Thanks for being a part of this. I think it's so essential to the Vote Common Good work that we do, because I know so many of the people in our world who are feeling the changes from their religious identity and their civic and political identities separating and wanting to have more agency on both sides, often feel like they just need some more partners and friends and help and support in doing their whatever kind of human life they're going to be living going forward, right? And it's also, this is how it's supposed to go, right? This is what growing up and growing older, and that's like what it is. And look, no matter how old you are, you're older than you were a week ago. So, it's a thing that's happening, right? You're actually developing new, and your brain and your neuro pathways can either open and keep expanding, or they can sort of keep running the grooves that they're in. And if you're up
can
for
grow younger,
opening those up,
yeah, you can grow younger.
I mean, you're still going to die. You're not going to get that far. You're not going to grow that young. It's not.
Yeah,
not
but
that
also like the idea. Like I try to think like there's so many things that are riling us up, so many things that are stirring us, that are bringing us to exhaustion, to an excitement and fear. Politics being one of them, right?
Yeah.
And if we can match our exposure to that, match with a symmetrical exposure to our inner life and attention to our inner life, like don't spend 2 hours on the news and then you cannot spend 2 hours on walking, reading, thinking, being with friends, writing a letter to your mom, like cooking, right? Those things are, you have to match those. We call it being an ordinary mystic, right? Ordinary things of life are liturgy if you make it so, right?
So good.
So ordinary life, you don't need more, you don't need religion when you have an ordinary life, right? You make it into a liturgy, you give it meaning, you imbue it with things, and then once you're aware of that and once you inhabit that place, then when you're turning to the news and all these kind of like what is adrenaline stuff, you can walk, you can be calm, right? Like your guitar, right? What does it do for you? Does much more than you learning to play.
For sure. Yes. Yeah. It's not simply skill development. Yeah. It's not Wordle. Yeah. I'm not just trying to keep my brain fresh,
Right. Yeah. Exactly.
There's something else. Totally. There's something else going on here. There's
for me, cooking, for example, is something that has a lot of purpose, but to feed people is kind of one of the purposes, but not in first 5.
So I won't wait for a dinner invitation. I got point taken there. So and you don't wait for a concert because I'm not learning guitar so I can play for other people. That's also not happening.
Right.
But it's interesting, right? Because we come from worlds, both of us, personal and professional worlds, in which the interaction with other people in our own skill set development has just been built in, right? You do it as a thing you do for outcome for other people. They get to eat, they get to listen to something, like, And that's
Right.
good. I'm all for that. Like, for sure. I'm so glad people make me meals and play music that I can listen to. Absolutely. But that's not why I'm doing it.
Yeah.
Right. It's not the
Right.
only thing
Yeah.
that's
When
going
you
on here.
start doing things for its own sake, you know, so yeah, so not everything has to have a utilitarian purpose, you know. You are why are you good grandfather? Like if
Mhm.
I say, what's your why? Simon Sinek would ask you, what's your why for
Yeah.
being grandfather? Give me the purpose of your being grandfather. And you're like, what are you talking about?
Yeah.
I'm grandfather because I'm a grandfather, right?
Right.
The
Right.
answer is because
That's
you are
my
here.
why.
That's the
Yeah.
reason. Because you're
Yeah.
here.
Right.
That's the answer to everything that matters. I'm here. Like
Yeah.
I'm not, I'm, don't do art so I can sell, I can do this, whatever. No, until you break into doing it for its own sake, it's not going to be useful.
So good. Well, this is the kind of stuff, folks, that you get not only on this podcast, but you can get in a whole other deepened level of way as part of the Turn community. So hope you do. Hope you take it up on that. Samir, thank you so much.
Hey,
And
thank you, Doc, for having me. It's wonderful. So
All right,
many good things. Here's to next 25 years for us. How's that?
yeah, how about that?
Huh?
We should do that. Yeah, another 25 years. It's a promise.
Yeah.
Let's see
Yeah.
who breaks. Let's see who breaks
And
it
we got to
first.
work on our pilgrimage in Spain, right? We got to do that.
Well, that is another thing. Yeah. I'm really getting the itch to walk across something. Occasionally it's across the street, but a country or continent, now that's more
How
out my
about an American pilgrimage? That can be a good
dude,
thing.
About 3 times a week, I have to stop myself from getting out a Google map and trying to put together one of many routes that I'm thinking about. Under what auspices could we do good for the world by walking from here to there?
Yeah.
So anybody who wants to ever talk about that, I am right there in the conversation.
And your hips are working.
I don't know if they can walk across the country. I haven't done that before, but I'm willing to put them to the test. I mean, it might take a while. This is a big country. We can find smaller countries to walk across. Maybe we do that first. We find some that just have more land mass or
Let's
less
walk
land mass.
across the border over and over and over again.
That's right.
The brick
That's right.
wall somehow.
Yeah, somewhere, somebody's probably decided to make a law of a border. How's that working for humanity? All right, buddy. Good to see you. Thanks all for being a part of the podcast. And of course, share this, tell your friends. And if you're not yet doing this over on YouTube and you're watching this long, you're our kind of people. So watch and listen and share over YouTube. It helps us in our whole little YouTube world over there. If you're watching on Facebook or Twitter or Stitch or any of those other places where we also put this out gladly. But we'd love to have you over at our YouTube channel. So, all right. Thank you, Samir.
All right. Thank you.